In this video, we're going to be dividing rational expressions using 4 steps: factor, flip, simplify, and finding what x is not allowed to be. So we're going to start off with our first equation, and we're going to find the factors of our first numerator. So here we can recognize this as the difference of perfect cubes. We know that the cubed root of x cubed is x, and the cubed root of 1 is 1, which will give us an x minus 1 times x squared plus x plus 1. So now we'll factor our first denominator, which is x squared minus 1, and we see that we have perfect squares and a minus sign, so we here have the difference of squares. So we just need to know what the square root of x squared is and the square root of 1, which we know is x and 1. And so we can rewrite this as the factors x plus 1 and x minus 1. We can now factor our second numerator, which is a trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1. So we're looking for two numbers that will multiply to 1 and add to 1. And there isn't numbers that will multiply to 1 and add to 1. And so this is our completely factored form there. So we'll write that down as an x squared plus x plus 1. Leaving us with our final denominator to factor, x squared plus 2x plus 1, which is a trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1. So we're looking for what two numbers will multiply to 1 and add to 2. And in this case, we get 1 and 1, which gives us factors of x plus 1 and x plus 1. So we are now ready to flip. So we're going to rewrite our first fraction in factored form. And remember that that fraction stays exactly as it is. But when we do our flip, we're doing our keep change flip. So we're going to change our division sign to multiplication, and then we're going to rewrite our second fraction, but we're going to flip the numerator and the denominator. Now that we've got that flipped, now we're ready to simplify. So we're trying to find the groups of things that we can cross out. So noticing, I see that there's an x minus 1 in the numerator and an x minus 1 in the denominator that we can cross out. And that we also have an x plus 1 in the denominator and an x plus 1 in the numerator. Now, even though there were 2 in the numerator, I can't take them both off if there was only 1 in the denominator. It's 1 for 1. But I see that I can also cross off my x squared plus x plus 1, leaving me with just x plus 1. So we'll write that down. And now we just need to know all of the things that x is not allowed to be. So remember, we're going to take anything from the first fraction. So we're going to write down x plus 1 from our first fraction and equals 0. And x minus 1 from our first fraction equals 0. And then we were also able to cross out in the second fraction 2 things. Now remember, because we flipped our fraction, what's currently our numerator used to be the denominator, which means that both the numerator and the denominator on this particular part, if we cross it off, it needs to be written down. So we also need to write down the x plus 1 and the x squared plus x plus 1 and set that equal to 0. Now here, notice that we have two x plus 1 equals 0s. I don't need to do that twice. So because I'd already written it in pink, I didn't need the 1 in orange, so we're just going to get rid of that. So I need to solve for x plus 1 equals 0, and x minus 1 equals 0, and x squared plus x plus 1 equals 0, which is going to leave me with x equals a negative 1, and x equals a positive 1. And then for our last equation, we're going to go ahead and complete the square to try and solve this. So to do that, we're going to write down our equation. Well, let's start from the beginning. First, we're going to move that 1 to the other side. And then we're going to write down what's left, but we're going to leave a space so we can complete the square. We have -1 plus leave a space, because remember, whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other. The next step in completing the square is to take the second term and to divide it by 2. So as a reminder, there's technically a 1 right there. So we're going to take our 1 and we're going to divide it by 2. Then we take that value, which in this case is going to be 1/2, and we take that and we have to square that number, which is going to give us 1/4. Now we're going to take that 1/4 and it gets added into our spaces. So we're going to put 1/4 here and 1/4 there. And when we add these together right here, we're going to get a -3/4. And now we're ready to write our completed square, which is going to be a something squared equals. Okay, so it's going to be an x. Then what we're going to do is this next piece is going to be whatever number is on the inside, whether it's positive or negative, and in this case it's positive, so plus 1/2. And then we're going to take our answer from over here, and that's what goes right here. So we have a -3/4. Then from here, we're going to try and solve for x. Now our first step in trying to solve for x here would require us to take the square root of both sides. But that's a -3/4, which makes it not possible. So this is no real solution. So we don't have to write that down as one of the things that x cannot equal. So we'll just write down our -1 and our +1 as plus or -1. And this is our solution.